Thank you for tuning in live with the Seer for Nations broadcast. I actually thought that this was already recording at one time, but it wasn't recording. Okay, we got an echo and feedback, so we'll take care of that. So I wanted to talk about miracles this morning, trying to get my bearings together as far as what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about how people have lost faith in God's miracles or the greatness of God. We'll talk about the greatness of God, and do you still believe in miracles? So God's greatness, in we find that in the book of Psalms, it's like a testimony of God's grace, God's greatness, and in parts of the Psalms you'll see how He goes in to tell us what the end result will be when we meditate on who God is and what He's already done. And to put your faith in somebody, you have to know or have some kind of record of what they've done before. That's number one. Number two, you have to have a knowing within yourself that I I know that this is the right person that can make a difference in this situation. So it requires faith, and sometimes it requires knowing a history of such uh, deity or higher power or being. Since we're talking about the greatness of something or somebody outside yourself, but right now we're talking about God. So we meditate on what He's already done for us in the past. I mean, you can start small, even if He might not have done anything that you were majorly expecting on the list, but start off small. The fact that He woke you up to be able to hear the alarm, because you didn't hear the alarm by yourself to wake up, or the phone ring. He opened your ears to hear it. You were watched over all night long, and no hurt, harm, or danger come to you. Or if even if you did go through something, the fact that you survived what you went through and still have a testimony. So that's a record. Start your record off with God. You know how sometimes we do in a relationship with a human being, and and we might say another person will say, well, do the cons outweigh the positives, or do the positives outweigh the cons? you know but with God, when we count our blessings, everything is a positive. It's a record, creating a record. So the psalmist, if you go in the book of Psalms and you need your faith and courage, go to the book of Psalms, and it says, your ways, God, are holy. What God is as great as our God? You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the people. So it's no secret at what God can do. It's no secret. He does it loud and outside so everybody can see it. So he displays his power among us, and his mighty arm redeems us. He's strong enough to redeem anybody. And even the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. So that goes far back, way far back from the beginning of time almost, of what he can do, and he's still doing the same thing. And the greatness of God, who could create a universe and designed it that the universe doesn't destroy us, that the stars remain where they're supposed to remain until He says one should fall, or volcanoes don't erupt on their own unless He commands it to, or the sun stays in its place and it doesn't fall out of the sky. The sun and the moon know when to show up and when to leave, and we still are all right with the changes around us. The seasons change: winter, spring, summer, or fall, and we don't have to call anybody for that to happen. It just does it at the command of God, because He created the nature, the air that we breathe. So you can't reach up in the sky and then flip the sun off like it's a switch, or flip the moon on like it's a light switch. And that's something that may not be able to be explained, and if it did, you still couldn't do it. So man will try to simulate what God has already created. People want to change what God originally put in place for it to work, or they try to find ways around it, but it'll never be the same. It will never be authentic. I don't care what area of life it is in. If He created it, only thing that we can do is try to um, simulate, but it'll never be the same the way God did it. Never. So we remember the greatness of a God who would create a universe, and it helps you to keep things in perspective. And the reason why I say it helps you keep things in perspective, because sometimes we can think that we are at a certain level, and other people can think that about themselves too. And we have to, not compare ourselves to somebody else, or not to try to belittle someone else, or don't receive, you know, insults of someone making us feel less valuable or less than. But it helps you keep everything in perspective, because at the end of the day, we all gonna die. I don't care how much money we got in between us, more or less. One thing that's gonna make us a common denominator is death, because you can't take it with you. And it doesn't make you better or worse than the next man, whether you have money or not. But one thing it does, you can't reach up and create this universe. You'll never be able to create another galaxy. Only God did that. God did that. You can't create a galaxy. There are many galaxies. There are many solar systems that we probably hadn't even tapped into or can't even get to. So, it just keeps your mind in perspective when you want to get proud, or when some people think that they don't need God or you don't need anybody. Let them stop creating the oxygen. We'll see. So your faith has to stand firm as long as you are convinced of the truth in the book of Psalms that God is holy, He's great. And Asaph was one of the writers in the Psalm. Asaph is spelled Asaph, and he's filled with a sense of being overwhelmed with God's perfection, His majesty, and power. Sometimes you got to respect people when they can do what you can't do, instead of being jealous or envious. Because there's some things that your brother or sister can do that you can't do, and you have to appreciate them. Why? Because God gave them that ability. That's God's work on the inside of them. It's not that you're worshiping somebody else, or you just so into a person. But if that person can do something that you don't have the ability to do, we have to find and appreciate each other, the uniqueness of each other, the uniqueness, how God made us different, and God made us unique. You know, like I say, we like to celebrate our own greatness, and we like to think we are powerful because of technology, in nuclear power, space exploration, and iPhones. But how does this power compare with the power of God? You know, like I say, the sun works on the same principle as nuclear power, generating energy, fusing the nucleus and hydrogen atoms. But the sun unleashes the equivalent of 100 billion nuclear bombs every second. And man can't do that. What's more, the sun, 300,000 times the size of planet Earth, it's just one of about 1 billion stars in the Milky Way. Like I was saying about that galaxy, God's universe is unleashing trillions and trillions of energy to humans. through the most powerful invention. And I know this in the science class, but hey, God is science. You just ain't figured it out yet. You ain't figured out his formula. So the reality of miracles, God is the one who performed miracles. Some people can be argumentative about if there is a God or not. I say, if you don't think it's a God and you can operate in your own power, die and then wake yourself back up. Put your soul back in your body and try and see if you God or not. So, it's just these basic common sense kind of things that we need to think about. But God has a history. He got a track record. And you can listen to other people's track record that he wrote about them in the book of Psalms, or the stories about how about Noah's ark, when he told Noah it was gonna rain and it hadn't rained in almost never, if I can use that as a word, and all of a sudden he's telling you to do something, build a boat. You have to have that faith in somebody that's bigger than you to do what they say to do, and something that's never happened. And Noah had that trust in God. And when it started raining, the ones who didn't believe, he was showing them that God was real, that God wasn't playing. He is real. So his awesome power is something else. And those events are supernatural events, and that people find them convincing evidence to a reality of God. But you don't even need a whole bunch of faith. Bible says if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, that could go a very long way. That kind of faith can go generations and generations, because if you get on your knees and you praying about your children and your children's children and things like that for them to be blessed, that seed of faith goes a long way. That seed can produce miracles, whether it be natural or supernatural. So imagine having a tree, you got natural apples on it, and then you got other fruit on it that's supernatural. So God, trusting in God, can give you the best of both worlds, to tell you the truth. So I just wanted to give my tidbit on that, because you know people lose faith. They lose faith in God. But look around. That's all you got to do. Look around. Don't don't get too bent out of shape because it hadn't happened now. Like they say, delay is not denied. So, with that being said, I am going to close this out. And I guess we were on live. I thought we were on live a minute ago, and I was just talking, talking, talking. I said, "Oh my goodness!" So, yep. So, with that being said, I just hope you all have a good evening. Keep the faith and know that God is still a miracle worker, and He loves us, and I love you. And like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to be a blessing, we do accept PayPal and Cash App, whatever the Lord lays on your heart. And you all have a blessed day and good day.